Thank you, Dean. Is this on?
Are you wired?
No.
Oh. Did you want to use that one or this one?
It doesn't matter.
You got to get close to it.
Yeah, get close to the live mic. Real close.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Dean. I really appreciate the opportunity for being here today. And for me, today is quite a celebration in my recovery in ways that you'll be able to understand when I get a little bit further into my talk. But today is the day that I'm going to overcome my fear of naming the names of my affluent and oftentimes publicly known famous people that were part of my abuse system. The reason I'm doing that is in order to stand and speak for other survivors who have not yet had the chance of recovering to the level that I've been so fortunate to be supported to recover to. And so today when I speak the names, I'm speaking the names for all of us, for all of this, so that we can begin to have this system exposed and stopped, so that these crimes that are occurring against children all over the world can come to an end. I would like to also thank Ted Gunderson, who has been my personal support and security system for a lot of years. In 1985, when I first had my accident and started waking up to the reality of what I had been involved with, Ted started coming forward and advising me with ways to stay safe and to stay alive, and his technique worked, so thank you. And I'd also like to thank my children who are still under mind control and are still as yet under control with their perpetrators. I would like to thank them for being born into my life so that I would have a reason to continue living against all odds and against the horror that I woke up to, that I didn't believe that I would be able to live through. And if it wasn't for my children, I probably would not have had the motivation or the courage to continue the battle that I had to face. It's really frustrating for me as I stand before you to try to figure out how I could say something that is so important and is so important for so many people's lives, for me to be able to get it all organized and to say it in a way that you could understand. It has been a real challenge for me, and so I hope that you'll just be patient and open your minds and your hearts to the possibility that there are children all over the world who have been abused in the similar ways that I'm going to share with you my experience today, so that we can begin as a nation to put an end to what has been covered up for so many, many years. As Ted explained about the ritual abuse, I also am an intergenerational satanic ritual abuse and government mind control survivor. And satanic ritual was a way that my controllers were able to control me, as using the satanic blood ritual as a trauma base. It's a conditioning in order to bring about the mind control, the levels of mind control and the multiple personality disorder that was the result of being tortured for so many different years and since I was a very small child. In order to stay alive, once I started remembering, I wrote a book, and my book is back on the table, but I'd like to explain that it was novelized not in an effort to cover up the story further, but it was novelized in an attempt to keep me alive. At that time, it was very dangerous, and I found myself often running from state to state and from people to people, trying to find a safe place to recover and to figure out what had happened. And I guess the easiest way to begin my story is to begin when I began waking up. In 1985, I had a head-on collision where my head smashed through the windshield of the car, and for the first time in my life, I had access to both sides of my brain. And there really wasn't anyone in 1985 that really understood much about ritual abuse or the memories that I started having, and so I entered school to work on my master's degree in clinical psychology, thinking that I might be able to understand what was going on with my own mind. But when my memories and flashbacks became so intrusive that I could no longer think without being constantly bombarded by visual and sensory images, much like the Vietnam veterans, I quit school and went into therapy full-time. I was in therapy every day for about 6 years on a daily basis, where I started documenting the horror of the rituals that I attended as a child, was taken to, and of all the child abuse that led to my further sophisticated programming, and then on into the government mind control, where I was used in the intelligence community with the elite families and with people such as my owner, who was Bob Hope. I did it. And thank you. And Henry Kissinger, who was responsible for programming me with what he called government mind files, where I was used as a human computer, and he took me with him to different places to do foreign policy and meetings, where he would access my mind behind the scenes in order to work with the people that he was working with the Rockefellers and some of the other people that I was involved with in bringing in the New World Order. The agenda that Henry Kissinger was the mastermind of is very, very sophisticated and involves a lot of people. It involves presidents, it involves governors, it involves foreign leaders. And in my experience, and because Henry decided that for whatever reason I was the one selected to be used as this human tape recorder that he sent around the world in order to target certain individuals that they wanted to own or control or use and manipulate through sexual encounter, and then by either passing messages to these people or retrieving messages. He also used me to send messages back and forth between George Bush and a lot of other different world leaders who were very instrumental and still are in bringing out the New World Order. Back to my therapy and all of that, as I began coming up with these memories and talking about it in my therapy with my therapist, and they just kept looking at me like I was crazy because they didn't understand what all this ritual abuse was and why I was talking about being flown at night in helicopters where there were no lights on, and where I was flown into tops of buildings in Beverly Hills and in Las Vegas and in Hollywood and all over, and they didn't understand. But my one therapist finally realized that there was something to what I was saying when she looked out the window and there were men in suits in the car waiting at my therapy session. She lived in a residential neighborhood, so it was a little out of order for that to be happening.